Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Time for our Monday morning sessions with our relationship coach, Dr. Denise Charles. Dr. Denise Charles, oh, look at you. Good morning.
Good morning, Pearson. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. Every Monday morning you're coming fresh and different. I love it. I love it. You keep things interesting. And that's what we talk a lot about on the sessions, right? Keeping things interesting.
That's true. That's true. I live by that rule.
Yeah. Coming out of our conversations last week, though, I said to you, you're a man, and we talked a little bit about that, how sometimes words can be so hurtful. We also live by this adage that says, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can't harm. But you're kidding. Words do harm. And that's where I want to go this morning, if you don't mind. When we sometimes take it for granted, the words we use in relationships. And this is not a case of saying it's the women who tend to do it more so than men, because both genders do the same thing, become very hurtful with the words they use. Do you think this is as critical a problem as I see it?
Pearson, somewhere back in our past, in our childhoods, when we become engaged with language, I think we get a sense of how important words are. From a child, when you're learning to talk, it is a huge thing, when you can put those words together and they can have meaning. And I think it is unfortunate that sometimes in our relationships, instead of using our words to build up and to validate and to affirm, we often use our words to pull down. Because somewhere in the human psyche, we have connected with the idea that words are extremely important. Actually, the Word of God says life and death. Life and death is in the power of the tongue, and we can use our words to build up, or we can use our words to pull people down. And in relationships, it's absolutely critical that we do the right thing with language. But very often, when we are hurt, we use words to destroy, we use words to discourage, we use words, as a powerful tool to sometimes put that person in their place, and that is something that we really shouldn't be doing.
But how then do we put them in their place? Because sometimes you want to put them in their place. You know what I'm talking about, Denise. When that moment hits and you feel the anger, the passion against something, and you want to say something that to best displays how you feel, what do I now do to check myself?
We have to try to self-regulate when it comes to language, when it comes to words. Some of us have a really great facility with language, and we're able to use words to explain ourselves. We're able to use words to speak to how we feel. We're able to use words very powerfully to describe our hurt, to describe our pain, to describe our goals, our dreams. We're very comfortable with language. And I was thinking about this last night when it came to this topic, and I was thinking that in my experience as a counselor, very often I've recognized that men, and I know you didn't want to go down the gender road necessarily.
Let me hear you.
But sometimes men see language as something that is, it is almost damning to them. Because they're not as comfortable. They don't have a strong facility with it. And I'm not saying that every single man is like this, but I've often found that men interpret language as something that is meant to harm, or something that is meant to decimate them, something that is meant to pull them down, when that is not necessarily what the woman intends. The woman is just perhaps sometimes stronger with expressing how she feels. She's just stronger with respect to explaining herself. But very often men interpret that as an attack, when it is really not intended to be an attack. So I think that difference between men and women in terms of how we use language, in terms of how we're comfortable with words, I think that sometimes can prove problematic in relationships. And that is why I'm always talking about the need to raise our boys in a way where they're comfortable with language, where they're comfortable with self-expression. And, I heard a conversation last week which was attempting to suggest the idea that we're trying to feminize men. We're trying to feminize men. We're trying to make men exactly like women. And I don't think that is the conversation we should be having. The fact of the matter is, all of us, whether man or woman, all of us use words All of us have needs, all of us have feelings, all of us need love, all of us need affirmation, validation, all of us have emotions. Emotions are not unique to women. Men also have emotions. And I think that we need to balance that. And with respect to relationships, women need to be a lot more wise in this regard, because it is not about trying to make men exactly like ourselves, but it is about meeting them where they're at when it comes to language, and using our words to also build them up.
So I'm hearing a woman saying to herself, I hear you, Denise, but what then does she do? What then does she do? Because she can't always be that sensitive to how the man feels. She wants still to be able to express herself honestly. So what does she do? How does she manage herself through this conversation and these expressions?
It requires maturity and it requires sensitivity. And not every woman might be there, because person, when you're angry, you want to get your point across
Yes.
and you want to win the fight, you're not going to be thinking about anybody's feelings. I mean, we do it with our own girlfriends, or we might do it with our relatives. It is just something where sometimes women will rise up and use their words as weapons. And it is more connected to our emotion in the moment, whether we're angry, whether we're upset, whether we're disappointed, whether we're fighting, and when I say fighting, I don't necessarily mean a physical fight, but we're fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for our rights, we're fighting for our sense of personhood, so therefore we use our tool, the thing that we're so good at, we use our language to sort of attack the individual in the moment, right? But when it comes to being sensitive, I think we need to understand that men have feelings, our sons have feelings, our fathers have feelings, our partners have feelings, and while we would want to express ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I'm not suggesting that a woman should forget who she is or forget her strengths to pander to a man's deficits, if I could describe it as that, but at the same time, I think we need to bring balance. And we need to, if you're really good with language and you're really good with not just using language to express how you feel, but the other side of it is about creating a safe space in your relationship where you can help your partner to also use language to express himself. And I think when it comes to communication, I know we're not directly talking about communication, but it is communication as well. I think we have to be willing to create a space where each of us feels empowered to use what we're good at. And I think when it comes to a relationship, a woman also has to be able to read her partner's body language. Now, he might not be as good, or some women, not every single woman might be excellent with words, but whether you're a man or woman, you have to be able to look at your partner's body language and kind of sense how they're feeling in the moment. And I think that is very, very important, to be able to read where your partner is at, to understand what they're going through, and therefore to be able to pivot and use your words wisely in those cases.
I can hear a woman saying, but I hear you too. Again, Denise, I hear you, but sometimes he says hurtful words to me too. Talk to him. And, and this is not about you talk to her and you talk to him, that kind of thing. It's that in a relationship, we must be mindful, as you've just said, that of the words we use and our facility with language and how we use that to either build up or to cut down. And sometimes we can truly avoid the cutting down in that relationship, because it really does no one any good. And especially if you've decided to embark on this long-term relationship, why are you seeking to cut the other person down through words? Why are you seeking to cut them down at all?
Yeah. Well, sometimes, when we use things, when we use words, when we use situations, when we bring up things from the past, when we do these types of things in relationships to hurt or harm, I don't think that necessarily we're sitting down and we're thinking, how can I do this thing? How can I use this thing to harm this person? But I don't think so. I think very often what it does, it is we're exposing ourselves. We're exposing where we're at. We're exposing the fact that we haven't forgiven for something that was done to us. We're exposing the fact that we are bitter. We're exposing the fact that something happened to us sometime in our childhood or in our past or in a previous relationship that we are still channeling. We're still journeying through. We haven't, fully gotten over it. And sometimes when we think we're attacking another person, and we are attacking that person, what we're in essence also doing in that space is that we're exposing where we're at as people. We are showing our own inefficiencies. We are showing our own emotional deficits. We are showing where we are challenged. We are exposing ourselves. And sometimes we're not very aware of that. It's like when we hear, when you hear women mouth off, All men are dogs.
Yes.
I don't need to be married. I don't need a man in my life. Something I'm saying you need to be married, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Sometimes when you mouth off like that, what you're doing, you're showing the fact that you have been hurt. You're showing the fact that you haven't had resolution for some previous relationship. Perhaps you're divorced, or in a significant relationship where you broke up and you haven't made peace, and as a result, your mouthings are expressions of your hurt and of your pain. And very often in relationships, that's what happens when we use words. So when we use words negatively, or we use words to cut down people, we're not just exposing the fact that we want to hurt them, which may be true, but we're also exposing the fact that we too have been hurt and that we haven't gotten over our pain. And as a result, we're projecting that onto someone else.
I get you. So for the partner who is being abused verbally in this instance, what do they do? I mean, they love them. They love the other partner who is abusive. So what do you do to help your partner get over the challenge that they may have faced?
I don't think it is your role to help them necessarily get over. And I say this all the time, especially with women who like to feel they're Jesus. And, we can't bring that man to salvation. He has to want to change for himself. And as much as when we love someone, we want to be empowered enough to help them to fix themselves. We can have conversations, we can point people to things to read, to things to watch, to things to listen to. We can listen with them, we can have conversations and dialogue about the things that challenge us in the relationship, and so on. But when it comes to real change and real recalibration, that is really the individual who has to do that. But I do agree that the relationship space can be a growing space. It can be a space where we have dialogue, we have conversations about the need for each of us to change and grow and develop. And as a result of that, the partner may feel motivated to change. So as much as you're talking about what can the partner do, I think the most the partner can do is ensure that the relationship is that type of space. It is a space of affirmation. It is a space where though your partner may have negative traits or maybe doing something negative to you at times, that's not the only thing that defines him or her to you. You're able to say to them the good things. You're able to still speak the good words. You're still able to speak positive about the relationship. And I think if you're finding that you can't do that, then you need to reevaluate that relationship that you're in. Because there has to be something positive. There has to be something good still about your partner. There still has to be something good about that relationship. So I think the most we can do, person as individuals, the other person that is the one that's being abused or the one that is on the receiving end of the negative words, etc. You have to be able to, I think, create a space where your partner can see himself or herself and see the need to change and see the need to grow. And that very often comes from a positive, affirmative space. And I'm not suggesting that we put up with emotional abuse and that we just allow ourselves to be hammered with negativity from someone else, because along the rules of self-care, we still have to be able to draw the line somewhere with respect to what we accept from someone else. And I don't think we should suggest that love means just sitting quietly and accepting negative behaviors or negative words from someone. I think when you love someone, remember, when we love, we want what is best for that person. You want that person to grow. You want that person to change. And you want what is best for them. And that means helping them to come into an understanding of themselves. But they're the only ones that can change. You can't change them, but you can create the space where they can see the need for that. If, however, the behavior, the words, is really bordering or it is smack dab in the middle of emotional abuse and you feel unsafe, you feel, your mental health is not in a good place because of what is constantly happening to you in the relationship, then I think there's need for professional intervention, because you shouldn't just accept that and take it. But from time to time, we will get these negative things happening in relationships. We are human beings and everything is not always perfect.
I don't even want to respond to that because you've just said so much. I don't want to muddy it. So I'll leave it right there to rest on the spirit of those who are watching, who find themselves in a situation such as this. Folks, you can also reach out to Dr. Denise Charles on social media. Denise Charles. You can find her on social media, and you can also reach out and see what she can do to help you too. Dr. Denise Charles, thank you so much for joining us again this morning, and I do look forward. I'll send the topic to you for next week, so don't worry. I'll send it to you soon.
No problem, Pearson. And let me invite those of you who are watching to join us on Wednesday, International Women's Day. We will be doing a live at 8 p.m. on my Facebook page, so look out. Woman is the topic.
All right. Wednesday coming, International Women's Day. Women, the topic indeed at 8 o'clock. Dr. Denise Charles, thank you so much. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Pearson. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much. Ooh, what a subject indeed. Take it for what it is, folks. Take it.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning.